Now, the Pentagon has submitted to the White House a preliminary plan to defeat Islamic State terrorists in Iraq and Syria, some 30 days after President Donald Trump requested a new battle strategy. The U.S. air campaign against the extremists is expected to remain a key part of this strategy. And VOA Pentagon correspondent Carla Babb brings us a first-hand look aboard a U.S. aircraft carrier that recently returned to the Mediterranean Sea.
Launch. Catch. Repeat. Jets from the USS George H.W. Bush conducted the first American airstrikes against Islamic State militants in 2014. And 2.5 years and thousands of airstrikes later, the Bush is again a hub for the U.S. offensive. For pilots aboard the carrier, the hours can be long.
It's been about 12 days, so that's about the longest we'd ever go between without having a no-fly day.
But the mission remains clear.
We're very proud and happy to be out here bringing the fight to those guys.
Sailors worked late into the night targeting Islamic State militants. And while the carrier's captain says the operational pace is perfect, during a stop at his quarters, he told VOA they can do more if needed.
So in terms of the number of sorties that we could generate per day or the amount of ordnance that each aircraft is carrying, we're not approaching our top-end capacity right now.
One advantage of having a carrier in the Mediterranean, some Islamic State targets are a shorter flight from here than from land bases in the region that host U.S. military aircraft. The carrier also helps diffuse the fight's workload across the military branches. But even when launching strikes by sea, allies in the fight remain essential.
As we fly our route up through Turkey, then our drop-off into northern Syria and into northern Iraq come out of Turkey. So we have to have that airspace to be able to do this job.
The sailors get a quick break during a port stop in Greece, resetting ahead of more strikes from the Mediterranean and eventually the Persian Gulf.
Well, joining me now to discuss our time aboard the aircraft carrier and the air campaign against the Islamic State is VOA Pentagon correspondent Carla Babb. Welcome back, Carla.
Thanks for having me.
Time. Now, could the new counter-ISIS kind of a plan mean increased amounts of attacks, of raids?
Well, Vincent, it could, but it's too soon to tell. And I was actually asking the top commander in Iraq for the U.S. right now, General Stephen Townsend. I asked him via teleconference yesterday, if he got more money, where would that go? Would that go for more ground troops? Would it go for more supplies for our allies? Or would it go for the air campaign? And he said, you know, I have presented plans to my superiors. I'm not going to get ahead of those. You'll just have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm. And now we know that the USS Bush was delayed. What was going on?
Well, that was due to some extra time in the shipyard. As the captain was explaining to me on the ship, the carriers are deployed for about 6 to 7 months at a time. And that carrier and the carrier before it had spent additional time out being deployed, which of course backs up the shipyard. And then on top of that, they needed more maintenance. So because of that, there were about 2 months without a carrier out there conducting strikes against Islamic State. Now the Navy will take that. They'll look at that example and say, this is why we need about $2 billion additional dollars for fleet operations and maintenance, because they say that they need to keep up the ships that they have in order to be able to carry out the fight continuously and be ready at home.
And I know it was exciting to be aboard that U.S. aircraft carrier, but you are not the only person who has had that first-hand experience. Someone else.
That's right. President Donald Trump is actually going to be going to Norfolk, Virginia today, and in just a few hours he's going to be giving a speech aboard the USS Gerald R. Ford. That's the newest aircraft carrier that is in Norfolk. He is going to be using that opportunity to tell the world that he wants to rebuild the Navy, and he wants to bring the Navy to about 350 ships in its fleet. Currently, there are about 274, 275. The Navy wants to be at that number, yes, but the Vice of the Navy has warned that they have to maintain the 275 roughly ships that they have before they can add on additional ships. That's why their top priority is that $2 billion in maintenance that they need. After that, they're also requesting for a few ships. And in addition to that, they'd like to see some more of those F-18 fighter jets. About 20 to 25 more of those is what they're requesting to help with the counter-Islamic State fight.
Just in a few seconds, what's really the advantage of conducting these airstrikes from aboard these ships?
Well, as I mentioned in the package, it helps spread out the strikes that are being conducted across the branches, and also whether the ship is in the Mediterranean Sea or in the Persian Gulf, it gives the U.S. military flexibility to move around when striking targets and get closer to some of those targets.
Carla, thank you very much for your excellent reporting, as always. Well, that's VOA Pentagon correspondent Carla Babb joining us live today.